It's time for Overtime.
Stop what you're doing and listen.
In the world of sports, it's all about the playmakers in today's headlines, from locals to the pros, with interviews from local standouts and sports all-stars across the country that will have you talking. Hear from coaches to players, sports analysts, and broadcasters who are a part of the action every day. Overtime, now with Bert Rameen on ESPN 102.3 AM 1000 KSOO, Sioux Falls sports leader.
Right back with you. It's the Thursday edition of Overtime on ESPN Sioux Falls. Still so much to get to on the show today. Latest from the NFL and the NBA. Kentucky Derby talk. Best bets for the big race coming up this weekend from Churchill Downs. FanDuel TV betting analyst Caleb Keller will join us around 12:30, and then we'll be talking with former Sioux Falls Storm head coach and title winner Kurtiss will join us around 12:45. We'll talk to him about what he's up to right now, what he's up to this weekend. He's got some football camps that he's a part of with Sanford Sports, the Sanford Complex. We'll talk all about that and more. But it's time for the big news to start out the day. Somebody's missing their goose, because we've had a Canadian goose in our parking lot and around our parking lot here at Results Radio for a couple of weeks. I've taken notice, and now he's the official pet of the show. I'm taking name recommendations as well. So if you want to weigh in on a name for a goose that will not leave our parking lot, I think he likes Results Radio. I think he likes the airwaves as well. One single Canadian goose is the official mascot of Overtime right now. If you have any name suggestions, dial us up, 605-362-3776. I will try it out. We'll see how he or she likes it when I dub the new name later on this afternoon. But there's a goose that's been in our parking lot for at least the last 10 or so days. Seems to be pretty darn cool. I'm not going to approach him, but certainly a name is in due order. Now on to the other important stuff, headlines and highlights as we move forward with your Thursday edition of the show. NHL hockey from last night. One particular series came down to the wire, and this one officially over with as Edmonton takes the cake. Leon Draisaitl with the netter in a 4-3 win for the Oilers.
Power play set to expire. McDavid centers, one-timer, score! Draisaitl's kick of the night, and Edmonton has regained the lead. 5-on-5 goal for Leon Draisaitl.
Edmonton would win the game 4-3, win the series 4-1. A series that's not over yet. Dallas and Vegas been pretty darn fun. The Stars roar back last night in the tune of a 3-2 win.
Miro Heiskanen to Robertson. Settles to his left, shot blocked again, he scores! Now the whole bottom bowl is standing. Robertson may have lifted everybody in Dallas to their feet as the Stars take the lead.
Stars and their fans, a lot to be excited about. 3-2 win last night, 3-2 series lead as it tunes up for a Game 6 in Vegas. Tonight in the NHL, just one game going on. Bruins at Maple Leaf, 7 o'clock on TBS. Bruins lead that series 3-2. Over to the NBA, end of the season, end of the series, end of the road for the Miami Heat last night. The Boston Celtics win it in dominant fashion, 118-84.
They outscore Miami by 74 points. In a 5-game series, they eliminate the Miami Heat, and the Boston Celtics are the first team on to round 2 in the Eastern Conference. The final score, Boston 118, Miami 84. The Celtics win the series 4-1, and once again are on to the second round of the playoffs.
Jaylen Brown, 25 points to lead Boston to a 4-1 series victory. Here's head coach Joe Mazzulla prepping for round number 2.
Every team is better than us at something, and we're better than them at something. So we have to do a great job of honing in on our strengths and at the same time understand where our weaknesses are and work on those and do that to our opponent.
There wasn't just one lopsided game in the NBA playoffs last night, but two, as Luka Doncic and the Dallas Mavericks on the road dominate the Clippers to the tune of a 123-93 win. All of a sudden, that series feels like it could be over very soon. Luka Doncic, 35 points in the win.
Hands it off to Doncic. Westbrook's defending, 9 to shoot. Doncic 35 feet from the basket. Now they switch Powell onto Doncic with 4. Doncic measures him. Doncic long 3, makes it!
Luka, a double-double, nearly a triple-double, 35 points, 7 rebounds, 10 assists. Dallas leads the series 3-2, and that's a solid 30-point road win in the postseason for the Mavs. Luka Doncic says, gotta keep playing this way.
Yeah, I think it was a very big game. We win, and now we got to win 1 out of 2. So we got to go back Dallas, play the same way. We know our fans going to be amazing at home, so we just got to win one more.
Just got to win one more indeed for Dallas. They take that 3-2 series lead. Tonight in the NBA, Bucks at Pacers Game 6 from Indianapolis, 5:30 on TNT. And Philly, the site for Game 6 between the Knicks and the Sixers, 8 o'clock on TNT. Should be 2 wildly entertaining games. The series that ends tonight, in my eyes, Pacers get it done against Milwaukee. Sixers, hopefully, I was heavily invested in the Sixers. I have them in the Eastern Conference Final in a loss to Boston later on in the postseason. But I hope the Sixers can get it done tonight, 8 o'clock on TNT. Speaking of teams that are getting it done lately, how about those Minnesota Twins? Toss the sausage once again, folks. 10 straight for the Twinkies.
He swings and he hits it into the gap in right center field. That's going to score 2. Correa, come on down. Miranda running right up his back. It's a 2-run double for Ryan Jeffers on a 3-0 pitch, and the Twins lead it 9-5.
The only bad that came out of yesterday's 10-5 victory on the south side of Chicago over the hapless White Sox is that Byron Buxton dinged up just a bit. Here's Rocco Baldelli on Buxton's status.
I'm going to hesitate and slow down before I, comment too much on Buck. He's got some soreness in his knee. We're going to get some imaging done just so we know what we're dealing with, and we're going to start there.
Troubling situation once again for Byron Buxton, a career that has been plagued by injuries. The bug bites once again yesterday. Latest info moving forward here on Overtime. Major League Baseball, other finals yesterday. Cubs won over the Mets 1-0. Cubbies are 19-12. Detroit over St. Louis 4-1 from Detroit. 18-13 are the Tigers. Milwaukee won 7-1 at home against Tampa. Brewers moved their record to 19-11. Other winners yesterday, Kansas City wins in Toronto, and Cleveland fends off Houston in Houston to the tune of a 3-2 final. The Guardians still the top team right now in the AL Central with a record of 20-10. For reference, just 3 games back, the Minnesota Twins 17-13. Today and tonight in Major League Baseball, light day underway from Miami. Rockies at Marlins, ESPN Plus. Also just now getting underway, Cubs at the Mets for another game in that series, 12-10. The official start time, Guardians at Astros, 7-10. The start time later on this evening. Before we dive into your Reliabank headlines of the day, you're missing out if you're not casting votes in our Name the Goose at Results Radio contest. I've got 2 entries, Ernie and Gossage the Goose. I love Gossage the Goose, by the way. That might be the play for our Results Radio Goose, wandering around our parking lot circa 2 weeks ago. I'll keep you updated on his status. Pretty fun mascot for Results Radio. And for Overtime, Goose, the official bird of Overtime. You heard it here first. Now into your Reliabank headlines of the day, as always brought to you by Reliabank. For a better local banking option, check them out at Reliabank.com or in person here in the 605. USF Cougar softball closed out the season with a final record of 20-28 following a 6-2 loss to St. Cloud State yesterday. Elena Newman got the coup going with a triple to start the game and scored shortly after on a wild pitch to give USF an early lead. Final score 6-2 in favor of St. Cloud State. Final season mark for USF Cougar softball 20-28. We'll look to chat with head coach Aaron Bly to wrap up that season coming up very soon on Overtime. Big news for hockey fans, big news for Augie Hockey and the CCHA in general. The Central Collegiate Hockey Association, better known as the CCHA around these parts, completed a 3-year media rights agreement with Midco Sports Plus starting next regular season. The regular season and Mason Cup quarterfinals, semifinals, and championship will be streamed on Midco Sports Plus on a direct-to-consumer branded digital network called CCHA TV. CCHA TV will be a one-stop shop for all collegiate hockey content for our area and serve as the exclusive streaming home for live and on-demand coverage of its member schools. One of those member schools, Augustana Vikings Hockey, gearing up for year number 2 under head coach Garrett Raboyne. The 12th-ranked Augustana baseball team moved their magic number right down to just 1 with a doubleheader sweep over Northern State yesterday at Fossum Field. The Vikings are now 38-8 overall, 29-6 within the conference. Game 1, Augie won 2-0. Game 2, 14-3. Augustana on top. Augustana will look to capture the NSIC regular season title tomorrow afternoon when they welcome Minot State to Ronkin Field here in Sioux Falls. First game of that doubleheader is scheduled for 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Other baseball team in town, University of Sioux Falls baseball team split a doubleheader with Southwest Minnesota State yesterday. SMSU took game 1 3-2, and USF came back to win game 2. The final score there, 4-3. Cougars are back in action tomorrow. They'll travel to St. Paul to take on Concordia St. Paul in a doubleheader. First game slated to start at noon. Maya Peterson of Augustana women's track and field broke a school record in the women's 400 meter as both the men and women competed in the Maverick Open on Wednesday afternoon. Peterson crossed the finish line with a record time of 55.59 seconds in the women's 400 meter as she broke the previous school record time of 55.67 seconds set back in 2015 by Ann Parsley. So now Maya Peterson, congratulations, the new record holder for the women's 400 meter dash. Impressive stuff. More on Augie Track and Field. GoAugie.com. More Augustana talk here. Augustana women's basketball has a new head coach, and they're starting to get new players. Hannah Berg has signed her national letter of intent to play for the Vikings next season. The guard from Colorado Springs, Colorado, Missouri Southern time as well on her career, joins Augustana basketball moving forward. Congratulations to Berg and Augustana as they build that roster for 2024 and beyond. The NSIC regular season champion Augustana softball team begins their postseason quest today, this afternoon at Bowdoin Field. The Vikings take on St. Cloud State at 12:30 in the afternoon. Just a couple minutes away, 15 minutes. Get out to Bowdoin Field there. Check that out. Complete action. If you can't make it out in person, follow along at GoAugie.com/live. Augie's the number 1 seed. They're 27-1 in conference play and are looking to wrap up their fourth straight regular season championship. They did wrap that up, and the team's littered with top talent in the conference looking to pull off a win in the conference tournament as well. Grace Glanzer was the pitcher of the year. Gracie Brink was the newcomer of the year within the conference. A lot to look forward to, and it begins today for the postseason for Augustana softball and head coach Greta Melstead. Big news for Sioux Falls coming up in June. Pro Football Hall of Fame member and Chicago Bear legend Brian Urlacher will visit South Dakota and Sioux Falls for the upcoming Hy-Vee Sanford Legends for Kids banquet. The year marks the 25th anniversary of the event, which runs June 4th through the 7th. The banquet will be on Thursday, June the 6th at the Sanford Pentagon. 2018 Hall of Fame inductee, played 13 seasons of his NFL career with the Bears and was the 9th overall pick back in the 2000 NFL draft, was a all-pro first teamer 4 different times, selected the Pro Bowl 8 times, and also won NFL Defensive Player of the Year back in 2005. Brian Urlacher will be the headliner of the Legends for Kids banquet on June the 6th. And again, the Legends for Kids event in its entirety runs June 4th through the 7th. Plenty of camps available. More info, sanfordsports.com. And again, $87,000 raised for the Legends Grant Program last year when Chris Carter and Ryan Sandberg were in town. And over the life of the event that dates all the way back to 2005, the Legends for Kids banquet and Legends for Kids event schedule over the course of that week in June has raised over $3.2 million for youth sports initiatives in our area. Moving forward with your Eliabank headlines of the day, Ethan Kaliak-Manis has a new home in college football. We knew that, but he's also the starting quarterback already at his new home. There's a changing of the guard at quarterback at Rutgers as transfer Ethan Kaliak-Manis has been named the starter after his performance this spring. Gavin Wimsatt, who started 18 games for the Knights the past 2 years, had officially entered his name into the transfer portal. He'll have 2 years of eligibility remaining. That'll leave Kaliak-Manis, former Gopher starter, leading a Rutgers team next season that returns 15 starters and has stirred some quiet optimism in the Big Ten, coming off of a season finish of 7-6 overall. Kaliak-Manis had 17 career starts for the Gophers over 2 years, logged a career record of 8-9 as a starter. Let's finish up up your headlines of the day with this. Creighton center Ryan Kalkbrenner, three-time Big East Defensive Player of the Year, announced yesterday that he plans to return to the Blue Jays for another season. Kalkbrenner had entered his name into the NBA draft, but is a projected borderline second-round pick, and he'll be taking advantage of the extra year of eligibility given to NCAA student-athletes from the COVID-impacted 2020-2021 athletic season. 7'1" senior Kalkbrenner will return down to Omaha, and that Creighton basketball program has been one of the elite defensive players in college basketball over the last 3 years. Averaged a career-high 17.3 points. 3.1 blocks this past season. Also averaged over 7 rebounds per game. That is a big addition via not subtraction, just a return for Ryan Kalkbrenner to Creighton Blue Jay basketball. Certainly a lot to look forward to moving forward with that program. Lastly here, an update on Byron Buxton. Twins center fielder left Wednesday's game against the White Sox in the second inning because of right knee soreness after an unsuccessful attempt to steal second base. Buxton, who singled leading off the inning, didn't slide into second and was thrown out by catcher Corey Lee. Buxton then walked off the field slowly and was replaced in the bottom half by Willie Castro. All-star back in 2022. Buxton was limited to just 85 games as a DH last season. There was a lot to be excited about. Buxton was back in outfield this year and now got a couple injuries to start the season for Byron Buxton. Sad to say, not surprised. Hopeful, though, it isn't too bad. Some imaging on the way for Byron Buxton, MRI or otherwise, as they look to diagnose what exactly is bothering one of the promising players each and every year for the Minnesota Twins. So far this year, Buxton batting .250 with a homer and 11 RBI through 28 games in year number 10 for the Twins outfielder. Those are your Reliant Bank headlines of the day. When we come back, updates you on Chris Finch, his injury status, and more. Latest from the NFL to come as well. And then we'll be talking about Derby Day coming up this weekend. The Kentucky Derby. FanDuel TV betting analyst Caleb Keller will join us. And we round out the show talking with former Sioux Falls Storm head coach Kurtiss Riggs. It's all ahead on this Thursday edition of Overtime.
The best sporting matchups and coverage. We are ESPN 102.3 and AM 1000 KSOO, Sioux Falls sports leader.
Right along, it's hour number 2 on your Thursday of Overtime. You ever miss any of the show? Want to rewind that lengthy Vikings discussion each and every Thursday with Dustin Baker in hour number 1. Podcast links are so easy to find, ESPNSiouxFalls.com. Or just download simply the ESPN Sioux Falls app. It is free. It is great. It's got the Overtime podcast links. It's got local sports stories and so much more, including local sports scores when they're in season for high school hoops, high school football, everything in between. Available on that ESPN Sioux Falls app and at ESPNSiouxFalls.com. Latest from the NBA. Here's tonight's spreads. The Bucks on the road in Indiana. It's a 6-point spread in favor of the Pacers to close out the series. Over-under, according to DraftKings Sportsbook, is at 217. They're expecting a much more defensive game out in Philly tonight, where the Sixers are projected, according to Vegas, to push it to a Game 7. Philly is just a 3-point favorite against the New York Knicks. The juice is on the Knicks side right now, but 3-point favorite in favor of Philly. Over-under their set for 201 points. It's interesting that we're talking about a series that begins on Saturday evening between the Denver Nuggets and the Minnesota Timberwolves, and the biggest hot-button topic about the series is the availability of Coach Chris Finch to be on the bench. Minnesota Timberwolves are planning for Coach Chris Finch to be with them in Denver to begin the Western Conference semifinal series on Saturday night following his knee surgery, and are considering seating configurations that would allow him to be safely on the bench during games. Finch's procedure to repair a ruptured patellar tendon in his right knee on Wednesday went well, according to assistant coach Micah Nori, who has temporarily taken the lead in Finch's absence. Finch directed the initiation of the strategy for the Nuggets this week before going into surgery. The team will fly tonight to Denver ahead of Saturday's Game 1, and provided his recovery is on track, Finch would likely travel separately to allow more healing time, according to the new acting head coach in Micah Nori. In the NBA, by the way, the bench is cramped with reserve players, large coaching and training staffs with high-priced floor seats surrounding them to be right on top of the action. It'll be a challenge to create enough space for Finch to keep his leg extended and to be out of harm's way should the worst happen, and a recurring injury or even people being close could be a pretty darn scary situation for Chris Finch. If I'm the Timberwolves, I just find a way to let him be extraordinarily involved, but not on the floor. Not worth the risk right now. And certainly we're in a day and age and a time where radio tech and headphones and everything can be utilized so well from a remote site. We had so many remote broadcasts over the COVID era. Certainly the coach can be very impactful on the game plan, the scouting, everything going on from an alternate location than in harm's way. That's the latest from the NBA. On to the NFL, where another unsurprising lack of a fifth-year option rung the bell yesterday. The Cowboys will decline to pick up the fifth-year option on quarterback and Minnesota native Trey Lance. That decision was essentially made back in August when the Cowboys acquired Lance from the Niners for a fourth-round pick in this year's draft. Had the Cowboys picked up the option, it would have cost $22.4 million. You're not going to pay that for a backup quarterback. You're not going to pay that for Trey Lance right now in his career. But to go ahead and say this earlier, Jerry Jones said earlier this offseason that Lance's quote-unquote arrow was pointing up. We think Lance is a good addition looking ahead. Jones said during last weekend's draft, I've got him right here in this draft, and if he was a draft pick for us. So they have a lot of confidence right now in Trey Lance. I don't think it's enough confidence to move on from Dak Prescott, but certainly they're going to be able to see and get what they need out of Trey Lance in the preseason, off-season training programs and everything to see if he's a viable backup, viable project, maybe a viable starter moving forward. After all, I will say this about a lot of quarterbacks, Mac Jones, Justin Fields, Trey Lance, all part of that same class. Trey Lance never really got that big of an opportunity out in San Francisco. It just so happens they drafted a guy named Brock Purdy with the last overall pick in the draft and lucked out with a guy who's pretty darn good and was more ready to go when he was called on than Trey Lance was. And Trey Lance certainly has an opportunity to rekindle his career, with whether it's with the Cowboys or somewhere else remains to be seen. There's a lot of guys out there, though, this year that are looking to get back on the right track, whether it be Kenny Pickett with Philadelphia, Sam Howell out with Seattle, Drew Lock out with New York, or wherever it might be. It's an interesting offseason for the quarterback position. Speaking of those Cowboys, it is official. Ezekiel Elliott is back in Cowboy land and was introduced to the crowd at Riders Field before the Reliant Energy Home Run Derby yesterday. It was Elliott's first time home again. Elliott signed a one-year deal with the Cowboys on Tuesday and has been a part of on-field workouts this week after spending last year with the New England Patriots. Here's what Elliott said at the Cowboys annual fundraiser. It was just important to me just to get back here and finish what I started. In 103 games as a Cowboy running back, he ran for 8,200 yards on 1,881 carries and 68 scores. He's third all-time in Dallas Cowboys rushing yardage, 305 receptions, 2,336 yards and 12 scores. Had a really dynamic rookie year, sophomore season, kind of fizzled down the stretch, became less efficient. We'll wait and see what he can bring to the Dallas Cowboys. And by the way, one free agent running back out there that screams Dallas. He screamed Dallas last year when he was available at this stage. Maybe the Cowboys give Dalvin Cook a try and look to pair two guys that used to be top running backs in the NFL together on a roster that is starving for running back production and talent this year heading into the 2024 NFL season. We take the break. We come back with Kentucky Derby talk and more. It's the Thursday edition of Overtime right here on ESPN Sioux Falls.
Streaming live app, this is Overtime with Bert Ramin on ESPN 102.3 and AM 1000 KSOO, Sioux Falls sports leader.
right back with you. It is the Thursday edition of Overtime right here on ESPN Sioux Falls. Down in Louisville, Kentucky this weekend. Saturday, 1:30 is the start time of the 150th running of the Kentucky Derby. Again, not the post time. You'll have to wait a little bit longer than that, but always a fun event year in and year out. 150th running for the Roses. Can't wait for it from Churchill Downs in Louisville, Kentucky. Here to break down the best bets, the worst bets, the long shots, the dark horses, everything you need to know. And per his Twitter bio, which horse is going to run the fastest in the circle in the quickest time coming up on Saturday. FanDuel TV betting analyst Caleb Keller joins us now on the ESPN hotline. Caleb, great to have you. How you been?
Bert, what's going on? Got a great view here of the Twin Spires. They call Thursday Thurby out here, so the locals have a chance to get out before the tickets get too expensive on Saturday. But it's going to be great weather here. Maybe a little rain on Oaks Day and some morning showers on Saturday. But hopefully once we get to the meat of the card on Saturday, it should be sunshine and a beautiful spring day. All
right, give us the update, Caleb. When is the time that people should tune in for the big race? Because every year it's kind of that waiting game. Can you let us in on the projected start time of the physical Kentucky Derby race?
Well, it's going to be past 6 o'clock Eastern time. I think that you want to tune in earlier. I think the NBC coverage starts more earlier in the day, of course.
Oh,
but,
yeah.
Really the lead up in that hour. I mean, the lead up really for us at FanDuel is like a 5-month lead up for a 2-minute race. And then once you get to the Derby day, all day is just a great festival. But I'm going to get you the exact start time here. So if you want to tune in right on top of the race, you'll have it. But it's going to be past 6 o'clock.
6 o'clock, the best bet there. I got to ask you, Caleb, have you been a mint julep taste tester yet this week? Have you had one of those yet?
Well, I'm working, Bert, but not to say I can't sneak one in afterwards. But the mint julep is a little bit of a sharp taste. It's never been my most favorite drink, but it is one. It's kind of like eggnog at Christmas. Like, you just got a glass because it's Christmas time and it's eggnog, and pretty much same thing with the julep. And also, the commemorative Derby glass. So each year they have a beautiful glass with the logo and all the winners that go all the way back to the 1800s. And some collectors have tried to collect every glass over the decades, but that's part of it. It's an expensive drink. You get the mint leaf, of course you get the bourbon, and you get the collector's item glass.
Hey, do as the Kentuckians do when in Kentucky is what I always say. FanDuel TV betting analyst Caleb Keller is our guest. You can find him on Twitter at Caleb with a C, FDTV, like FanDuel TV. What kind of coverage does FanDuel have cooked up for the Derby, and how excited are you for this thing to kick off on Saturday?
Pretty much wall-to-wall coverage. We've been out here all week and in the morning, so this is kind of a day and night production. We want to see how the horses are training. The actual post time for the Derby is actually a little later than years past, 6:57, so just shy of 7 Eastern. But definitely the walkover is going to begin around 6:25, and then you're going to hear my old Kentucky home. But the actual post time, they're hoping to launch them just before 7 o'clock on Saturday.
Always a fun event, and already up to 150 runnings of the Kentucky Derby. That's this year. My grandparents and my mom are from Louisville, so it's kind of ingrained in me to love this thing. Used to watch it wall to wall as a kid. I plan to do that this weekend. For people that are coming around the race the first time and are looking to maybe place a smart bet this weekend, there's a lot of ways to go. We'll start with the favorites. How often does the outright favorite win this thing, Caleb?
Well, it's really gone in cycles, because what's amazing, how about this? In the entire decade of the 1980s and the entire decade of the 1990s, not one favorite won, believe it or not. And then finally 2000, Who Said You Pegasus won. But then, believe it or not, in the 2010s, from 2013 all the way up to 2018, 6 straight favorites won. So maybe there's something to do in the fact that they changed up the point system on how you get there as to why the race has been more formful. But even with that 6 favorite in a row streak, Bert, the 5 longest shots in the history of the Kentucky Derby, the longest shot was back in 1990, North End on a rail. But the other 4 have also landed in the last 20 years. So we've seen a lot of favorites and a lot of 50 and 80 to 1 shots.
And obviously, it's been fun to bet on those favorites. Been up in the air, though, across the last couple of decades or so. So for those first-time people that are looking at favorites and looking for safe bets, the favorite right now, depending upon where you look, is Fierceness. 5-2 odds is what I'm seeing. You also got other horses out there. Sierra Leone, 3-1. Couple others up there near those odds. Forever Young and Just a Touch at 10-1, depending upon where you look. Who are the safest bets this year, and what do you need to know about these horses before you throw some cash at them?
Well, I think that number's going to come down on Fierceness. I think he will go off under 5-2, and I think the number on Sierra Leone will float up because Fierceness has so much more early speed than Sierra Leone. Now, Sierra Leone's got a great late kick, but you got to navigate through traffic. You got to get a good setup. And for Fierceness, he's a tiny bit inconsistent. Like, he has had 5 races. 3 of them he's won by Titanic margin. And the other 2, when he got bumped at the gate, didn't get his trip, he ran all races. But if you get the good Fierceness, it is not out of the question for Fierceness to win this Derby by a big Titanic margin and maybe set a blazing time. So if you get the best number 17 Fierceness, no other horse would be able to win.
Caleb, I got to ask you this question because there's all sorts of sortable stats in sports, whether or not you're playing on turf or grass, indoor, outdoor, wind conditions, snow conditions, precipitation. A lot of times, I would say it's probably once every 3 years, once every other year or so. There's some wetness involved, some rain, some mud, everything like that. What kind of advanced scouting goes into the horses and the jockeys based on their history when the race and course conditions are not ideal? What do you have to say about that?
Okay, so when it rains, I think the rain's a big factor because you don't stay the same for what you do on the fast track. I think some horses, when it rains, could move up as much as 5 lengths. And when it rains, some horses could move backwards as much as 5 lengths. So you really don't get a constant performance. A horse this year, number 3, Mystic Dan. His family with a bunch of mudlarks. 2 starts ago when it rained, he won by 8 lengths. But his races on the fast track are kind of ho-hum. So I don't think, I hope it doesn't rain into the race on Saturday, but he would be one that would move up. And then also, Bert, if you look at the rainy derbies over the years, the inside paths have done really well. Super Saver won it from the 4 post. Always Dreaming won it from the 5 post. Maximum Security crossed the wire first. He got to the rail. So I do think that Churchill Downs, when it gets rainy, it really helps the inside path closer to the rail.
Give us some other fun factoids about the race, the 150th running. Of course, year in and year out, there's different personalities involved, horse owners, horse trainers, everything. Where do those big personalities link with the field this year? That looks like it's a 21-horse field with 1 scratch so far, right?
Oh, Mike Rapoli is a very successful American businessman. He actually sold vitamin water for like $2 billion, and now he's a power owner, and he's basically made himself the new unofficial commissioner and self-appointed commissioner of horse racing. So he really is a loud, boisterous, great personality, and he owns Fierceness, this year's Kentucky Derby favorite. So he's one of those big personalities. And when you talk about the 150-year history, one special thing that the Derby has, there's been a lot of sporting events that have gone for over 100 years, but the Derby is the longest consecutively run sporting event. We've had a couple world wars. They still ran the Derby. We've had flooding here where Louisville, the city was completely underwater like in 2004. They still ran the Derby. We've had a worldwide pandemic that basically caused every major sporting event to cancel except for the Derby. They decided to run it in September. So for 150 years, not one time have they not run the Kentucky Derby.
We're talking with FanDuel TV betting analyst Caleb Keller. You can find him on Twitter at Caleb with a C, FDTV, like FanDuel TV. Wall-to-wall coverage from FanDuel, available FanDuel.com. Where's another place to find you this week, Caleb?
So FanDuel TV and also FanDuel Racing. I have my picks on the FanDuel Sportsbook site. And to get back to the Derby, okay, we talked about Fierceness. I think that, again, if he gives us a race, we could see a really spellbinding performance. But no one's want to give you the favorite. So also I'm looking strongly at the number 19 Resilience. I think that he's a horse that is growing up the herd ladder. I think that he's getting better. He goes out for the connections of Bill Mott and Jockey Junior Alvarado that had the horse of the year last year with Cody's Wish. He's the only horse in the race by Into Mischief who is the best sire of this era of racing. And he also has the right trip. I think that this is one of those races this year, Bert, where I'm looking a little bit more at the mid-packers. Usually, if you look at the Derby, okay, if you break the Derby into quadrants, the first 5 horses where they sit early, and then the next 5, and then the third 5, and then the final 5. The most winners, to no surprise, have come from the first quadrant, if you're sitting 1 through 5. The next group of winners has actually come from the back quadrant, whether you're sitting 16 through 20. And then in the middle hasn't had the best resume. But this year, I think the middle could be a great spot to be because Fierceness could dominate that first quadrant. And the 2 best closers, the number 2 Sierra Leone and the number 4 Forever Young and Catchy Freedom, they might experience a lot of traffic with the way this race develops. So a horse like the number 19 Resilience or maybe the number 18 Stronghold, they're going to sit mid-pack. And if Fierceness starts to assert turning for home, they're going to get a nice clean trip and a jump, I do believe, on the closers coming from the inside.
Those are some horses to keep an eye on. Lastly, Caleb, as we're wrapping up our conversation with Caleb Keller from FanDuel TV, betting analyst with FanDuel TV, top-tier coverage of the 150th running of the Kentucky Derby coming up on Saturday. If you're in the business of setting money on fire and you have a cynical mind, you want to go with one of these long shots, which long shot is worth the bet? West Saratoga, Grand Mo the First, or Society Man, or Epic Man? 4 horses at 50-1.
Ooh, man, that's a tough call. I think that of those, I think Epic Ride might have a chance to outrun his. I have a tough time seeing those because they're such long shots up to 50-1. Maybe Epic Ride, because he's going to get into the race early, and I know the trainer has always liked how he trains. But going back to the number 19 Resilience, I just looked at the odds. I know we're still a couple days out, but we're going to get over 20-1 on Resilience, and I really like him across the board. Again, yes, I think that if Fierceness runs his race, then he could give us one of those memorable Derby performances. But, Resilience, over 20-1, win, place, and show. He's going to be my long shot bet at the Derby.
Can't wait for it. Kentucky Derby on Saturday. That's all you need to know about the best bets there. TV betting analyst with FanDuel TV, Caleb Keller. Caleb, it's a blast to have you on the show. We'll do it again soon next year, I'm sure. Thanks so much.
Bert, appreciate it, and enjoy the race on Saturday.
Absolutely will. FanDuel TV betting analyst Caleb Keller. Find him at CalebFDTV on Twitter. And there's all sorts of great names, by the way, for the Kentucky Derby. I'll try to work it into the Friday parlay this week. Forever Young, 10-1. Honor Marie, 20-1. Catching Freedom, 8-1. All these odds, of course, subject to change. Resilience, though, the horse that Caleb talked about, probably more than any other one, is at the 19 spot, 20-1 odds coming up for the Run for the Roses on Saturday from Churchill Downs in Louisville, Kentucky. We take the break. Back to wrap up the show. We'll be talking with former Sioux Falls Storm head coach Kurtiss Riggs next on Overtime.
ESPN Sioux Falls gets you back to more of Overtime with Bert Rameen on ESPN 102.3 and AM 1000 KSOO, Sioux Falls sports leader.
Right back with you. Final segment on a Thursday. Thanks for tuning us in each and every day right here on ESPN 102.3 AM 1000 KSOO. Just got done talking about a sporting event nationally going on this weekend. Sporting event locally going on this weekend. Pair of camps coming up with Sanford Sports. SanfordSports.com, the place to find more info on Saturday's quarterback and wide receiver, elementary and middle school camp. Opening still there, 2nd through 8th grade, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. And on Sunday, quarterback and wide receiver high school camp. And there's a lot of big names rolling out to the Sanford Sports Complex here in Sioux Falls over the weekend. One of those big names, former Sioux Falls Storm head coach Kurtiss Riggs, joins us now on the ESPN hotline. Coach, it's a blast to have you. How you been?
I've been good. Yeah, it's been, different, not coaching, but also very enjoyable.
And I know you've been involved with the youth sports in our area over the last couple of weeks. You guys had the Combine not too long ago. How does that tie into this opportunity this weekend that gives the kids a lot of face time with big-time coaches and big-time athletes from our area, but also a big opportunity to sharpen their skills in the game that they love, right?
It does, yeah. And Sunday is more driven with the high school kids, the kids that would have participated in the Combine. But the Combine, you get 150 of the best kids from the area that get in front of 25 colleges and get a test and do drills and try to earn a scholarship.
And obviously, it's a big opportunity for the kids. Let's talk about some of the athletes that will be out over the weekend. Some guys named Mark Gronowski, Aiden Bauman, Chase Mason, Griffin Wilde, obviously big names in our area, USD, SDSU ties. And, of course, you're no slouch yourself, Coach, a very accomplished coach, lots of ties collegiately to our area as well. Going to be a fun event for the high schoolers on Sunday, and then elementary camp coming up on Saturday, 10-1 Saturday, Sunday, 9 a.m. to 4. What do you make of the opportunity ahead of the young men and young women over the weekend for Saturday and Sunday's camps?
Well, I mean, the feature guys, Chris Strebler, an All-American at USD, he's played in the NFL, playing in the CFL now, and then Jake Winicky, who has been just a stud in the CFL, was an All-American at SDSU. They were the two that came in and said, we'd love to do this. And so then we took that idea and then grew into, let's use some NIL money here and try to get guys like Mark Gronowski and Aiden Bauman and Chase Mason and Griffin Wilde and have those guys come. They all did the academy. They all trained there. So let's reward them and bring them back and let them help some of the area kids. The high school session Sunday is very inclusive. It is an all-day where we'll go through footwork, core work, classroom work, film work, everything, all the elements. And it's really, really good. I really like some of the stuff Chris Strebler does with his quarterbacks. I'm excited to learn from some of those things and then also contribute and add to that, too.
Can't wait for it. Again, more information. The best place to go, I found it in a hurry, sanfordsports.com/events. Couple first events to pop up there. Quarterback and wide receiver camp on Sunday. That's for the high school kids, high school grades there. And then Saturday, an opportunity, 2nd through 8th grade. I got to ask you this. You've been around the game for a while, Coach, and you've seen it at the collegiate level, at the professional level with the IFL, and, of course, down at this youth level. Got to be pretty fun to work around these kids that are just learning to fall in love with the game, isn't it?
Oh, it is. Yeah, I think, sometimes though, our flag league that we run, we have over 110 teams and we do all those games on Saturday and Sundays. I mean, it kind of becomes the largest daycare in the United States, I think, at times. But it also, after you get through the first and second week and the kids get the routine down and then start to enjoy the games themselves more than just the structure of being coached, it's very fulfilling. Well, the camps are the same way. Once the kids identify and learn the expectations and then go out, do the drills, learn from these great coaches, and then get to play games, they have a great time.
And obviously that's what's in store this weekend. Saturday, grades 2 through 8 can register for a camp there for an elementary and middle school quarterback and wide receiver camp. Sunday, quarterback and wide receiver camp for high school. Special guests throughout. Chris Strebler, Jake Weineke, also got Aiden Bauman, Mark Gronowski, Chase Mason, Griffin Wilde, and our guest right now, former Sioux Falls Storm head coach, USF Cougar standout, Kurtiss Riggs on the line with us. I got to ask you honestly, Coach, being away from the IFL, how much do you miss it? And also, what else is occupying your time? You playing some more golf? Are you into pickleball? What's going on with you?
Yeah, I never really got much. I didn't play a lot of golf, and those that have seen me play would also agree with me. Maybe now I'll play more, and try to get a little better at it. But, I've traveled down to Tuscaloosa, go down to see Coach DeBoer, kind of learn all about Alabama football. That's been great. I'll go down more often, more frequently coming up here. And just a little bit of travel and then running the academy with Sanford. It's been great. We had the big combine. It was great seeing, a lot of the area kids really go out and excel. And then kids get Division I attention immediately just right after the combine. So those are the types of things we're doing right now. And we're just going to keep building off that.
And it's a very exciting time. Have you let a Roll Tide slip off your lips just yet, Coach, or not?
Well, when you wear Bama gear as you're traveling, it's amazing how many times people will say that to you, and you just find yourself responding right away back with it. So, yeah, I have.
I went to college in the South, and I swore I would never let one of those off my lips. But now that Coach DeBoer is down there, it might end up happening this year, especially because I got some friends that like the Tide as well. Hard to root against that guy. Very exciting. Lastly, before we let you go, Coach, you guys had a big announcement to make in regards to a scholarship that impacts our community in a big way. What was that within this last week or so?
Well, every year our nonprofit does a scholarship to reward area youth that are going to go on to play college football. And some years we do up to 5 kids. This year we have one recipient of the Charlie Johnston scholarship from the nonprofit. Titan Tryon from Harrisburg is going to get a $5,000 scholarship as he furthers his football career and education at Augustana.
And it's a big deal, Coach. Always appreciate all you do for our area, whether it's the IFL, USF, and now the youth sports initiatives with Sanford. Thanks so much. I'm looking forward to these camps over the weekend, Saturday, Sunday. Spots still open. SanfordSports.com/events, the place to go. That's former Sioux Falls Storm head coach Kurtiss Riggs. Coach, always appreciate the time. We'll do it again here soon.
All right. Thanks, Bert. Appreciate it.
That is our future Alabama Crimson Tide insider, Kurtiss Riggs, by the way, here on the program. That is it for our show. We got to get out of here in a hurry. Tomorrow, 11 to 1, Friday edition of Overtime. We will talk to you then. Thanks for listening, as always, to Overtime right here on ESPN Sioux Falls.